Welcome to the webinar tonight. We're so excited to have this. We're talking about investment basics. So how to create income off of your portfolios. I think this is so important for so many people. So let's get started. I'm going to go to share my screen here. Okay, so tonight, again, an income strategies and investment basics. I am Kelly Slott. I am the president and CEO of our company, California Wealth Advisors. So me and my team love helping people. We love educating you, which is why I have a lot of these seminars. I have many more on my website, californiawealthadvisors.com. So by all means, go there and look at that. I'd love to have you get educated on more topics too. So tonight, though, we're going to talk about income strategies and investment basics. So yes, many of you found me through my radio shows. I'm on Jack FM 93.1 as well as KNX 1070 AM. So by all means, listen to my radio shows. I really enjoy doing those and helping educate people on what's available to them, how to navigate some problems that you might have. So I think that's hopefully educational for a lot of folks. Also, you can listen to my radio show anytime, not just the weekends, not just Saturdays and Sundays. You can go to my website, californiawealthadvisors.com, and you click under the radio tab, and all my previous shows are there. I have three plus years of shows on there, and there's topics listed as to which each one's about. So by all means, don't feel like you have to listen on the weekends. You can listen anytime you want. My most recent shows on the top there. Also, I have my book, The Great Retirement Mystery, How to Avoid the 6 Biggest Blunders. And retirement is in the name, but really this is my strategy. This is my manifesto, if you will, on investing and how to have a diversified portfolio, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But how to avoid the 6 biggest blunders. That's true for anyone, even if you're 50 years old or 90 years old, doesn't really matter. You want to avoid those blunders. And what's one of them? One of them is, who are you listening to? So if you have a neighbor and he bought Bitcoin and he made a ton of money and he's telling you, oh, you should do this, you should invest in this. Well, maybe not. That might not be appropriate for you because certainly there's a lot of risk in Bitcoin, right? So make sure that you're listening to a qualified wealth advisor like we are here at California Wealth Advisors to really help guide you on your financial plan and your financial planning and through your financial house and making sure you have everything in order there. So again, we're going to talk about investment basics and income strategies tonight, but I want to first talk about the key components to investing. So one of them is to have a plan. You've got to have a plan, and it's got to be designed specifically for you. It really does. There is no cookie cutter here at all. I have never done business that way. I want to tailor make your portfolio for you because every client that comes to us is different. So make sure your plan is appropriate for you with your risk tolerance, your time frame, your income needs, your assets going to your heirs correctly. These are all the things that we do and we help solidify for you. Let's put it that way. The second thing that's extremely important to investing is to have diversification. You've got to have diversification in your portfolio. I can't tell you how many times I see people come to me and they've got 2 million, 5 million in 401ks and trust accounts, and it's all in the stock market. I just had a radio show listener meet with me the other day, and they have about 9 million in the stock market. I said, well, you do realize this 9 million is 100% at risk, because if the market goes down by half tomorrow, your 9 million could turn into 4.5 million pretty easily. And they're at the age now where they just really don't want that kind of risk. So we're helping diversify their portfolio. Well, how do we diversify portfolios? This is it absolutely in my book. I talk about this all the time on my radio show too. But you've got to have that diversification, which I created the mass proprietary process to do that for folks. M is the stock market, A is alternatives, and S is safe money. So when you do all 3 of these, it tends to create more peace of mind for people because they're not so tied to the market. So let's see what that looks like. Well, here's my mass proprietary process in a visual form for you. M is the market. It's red for a reason. It's going to go up and down with markets. It just is. Markets are volatile. That I can probably guarantee you. Markets will constantly be volatile. We have interest rates increases. We have employment issues, political issues, all sorts of things happening in the world. So markets are going to be volatile. I don't mind some money there, and I'll talk more about bonds and stocks in a minute here. For the liquidity they do provide. So I don't put all of your money in one thing generally ever, because I want to have diversification for you, but I want to have some liquidity for you too in part of your portfolio. And the managed stock, bonds, and portfolios that we do can create income. So I've talked about income tonight and how to generate income. Well, yes, we can generate income from those portfolios too. Just your value is going to fluctuate every day. So stocks, bonds, and mutual funds is the M part of my master proprietary process. Then we go over to the A, that's the alternative section. So those are real estate programs, private placements, opportunity zones, 1031 exchanges, anything that does not trade with the stock market goes in that alternative light blue space. So many of my clients absolutely love that. Many of my clients, especially here in California, have a lot of rental properties. They own a lot of real estate, and they love that part. And that's where that light blue section would go. A lot of times we go for income there as well. And especially if you have trust accounts, investments outside of retirement accounts, if I do some of the real estate programs we do for you, it can yield 4, 5, 6, 7%. And a lot of that can be tax advantaged income for you too. So many of my higher net worth clients are very concerned about creating income, but they want to have it tax advantage. That's where we go a lot of times for that. So real estate programs, we're looking at apartment buildings, we're looking at storage units, we're looking at industrial warehouse space. Those three are the really good ones right now. And then obviously you can do 1031 exchanges. 1031 exchanges, you do have to become a client. You have to be an accredited investor to invest with those as well. But that's when you have a rental property and you're maybe getting income off of it. But a lot of times what I see is the income that comes in off of your rental property pays for the mortgage. So you're really not putting any dollars in your pocket. But if you then take a 1030, I just had a radio show listener recently with this. If you take your 1030, if you have a rental property and you don't want to manage it anymore and you want to try and create more income off of that, if you take that rental property and do a 1031 exchange with us, then that income I can generate off of the 1031 exchange is now money I can put in your pocket, which you didn't have before because your rent was paying for your mortgage. So a lot of times I can improve these for people. And we have on our platform at any one time, probably 10 or 15 different 1031 exchanges to look at. These are diversified across the country and diversified in the real estate that they do. And it's my job to pick which one that's best for you. So 1031 exchanges are great, and that's in the alternative space. Again, we can create a lot of income off of those. Opportunity zones, if you have a highly appreciated asset, your primary place of residence, perhaps your business, perhaps you have company stock that you had a large profit on. You want to sell it, you want to solidify some of those gains, but you don't want to pay all the taxes. Well, we can do opportunity zones as well. We can avoid and delay a lot of taxes on there. Many of them create income. And those are wonderful tools to use to help save in taxes and then, of course, create income for you as well. Again, you have to be an accredited investor and a client to work with us for those too. So a lot of alternative investment, we have tax write-off programs too. So if you have big gains and you need tax write-offs, we can do some of the programs we have there. Then the safe money, S is the safe money. So that is when you say, hey, Kelly, I just don't want any risk at all. I just want to have the safest investment I can find. I want to leave this money to my heirs, or I just want income guaranteed for the rest of my life. Well, that's where we go for the insured products. We go to annuities, we go to life insurance, long-term care. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But as you can see, for my master proprietary process, this is how we diversify portfolios for you. We make sure your investment portfolio dollars are doing what you want them to do. They're really working for you, right? So I think that's really important, and we love setting up these kinds of programs for people to bring them some peace of mind, because most people come to me and 100%, if not most of their assets are in that red part, because that's how they've accumulated wealth with their 401ks or their IRAs, which is great. But when you get closer to retirement, usually people don't want to be so much in the red. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about my private client process. So these are the 4 pillars I use to look at your whole financial house, to make sure that you're taken care of in many aspects, not just your investments in your portfolio. So I'm going to stop share screen here. I'm going to draw for you on my whiteboard here. I love using my little whiteboard. So I position myself as your financial director in your overall financial house. So yes, I'm looking at your investment dollars, as I just talked about there. And I will say most advisors will want to talk to you just about that. But we do a lot more than that for you here at California Wealth Advisors. We want to do a comprehensive financial planning on your entire financial house. Well, what am I talking about? Well, we're going to look at your risk management over here. Oops, if I can spell risk management. Because we have a lot of risk in our lives, right? We're all living our life over here. And unfortunately, life can throw barbs at us and we don't know that they're going to happen. Unfortunate events can happen to all of us. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about health, perhaps. Perhaps you're going to end up in the hospital, God forbid, or some health issue might hit you. Well, how are you protected for that? How is your entire portfolio here at risk for that? So we're looking at health issues here. We're looking at long-term care. A lot of times people are very concerned about long-term care and how they can mitigate some of the costs, because as we all know, there's a lot of costs with long-term care if you have to be in that situation. We also look at auto and homeowners. We look at property and casualty insurance. We make sure your umbrella policies are what they should be for coverage, because you know, risk could be you get sued for something, you go through a divorce, all sorts of things can happen here. But if you get sued for, and you own a rental property, for instance, and it's in your and your spouse's name, you can be sued not only for that property, but for all of your assets. I just had a client I met with recently, a radio show listener, and he's worth about $50 million in his entire real estate portfolio, and it's all in his and his wife's name. And I said, we've got to change this. You've got to put it either in the name of your trust or an LLC to make sure that if somebody hurts themselves on one of your properties, you're actually covered for that. You either have an umbrella policy that covers for that, or it's in an LLC and a trust and they can't sue you for more than that, the value of that property. So really important to make sure these risks are taken care of in your portfolio. As you can tell, there's many more here, but I want to move on to estate planning here. That's our next pillar that we help people with, estate planning. So again, how are your assets titled? Making sure any kind of business or rental property or any assets that you own are actually titled correctly. I am not an estate planning attorney, but we do work with a lot of estate planning attorneys to make sure your assets are titled correctly. We also look at your heirs. How are your heirs inheriting your assets? Really important to look at that too. Let's take a scenario. I just had this happen recently. So a husband and wife, and the wife came to me and she said, I'm worried that my kids won't inherit the assets that my husband and I have built up. And I said, well, why is that? She said, well, because if I died tomorrow and he remarried some cheerleader somewhere and had more kids, and then he dies, then she and her new kids are going to inherit all the assets that were supposed to be for my kids. So to make sure your heirs are getting the assets that you want them to is incredibly important. So again, I work with estate planning attorneys to make sure this is covered for you. If you have, well, you need a trust. First of all, I can't believe how many people I talk to that don't have a trust, because that will protect your assets. We need a trust for a number of reasons. You need a medical power of attorney, you need a power of attorney. So if something should happen with you, you have somebody that can pay your bills or make decisions medically for you. So very important for that, but also to protect your assets too. If you pass away and your assets are not in your trust, it's going to go through probate. And that's a hassle and a cost and a fee that you probably don't want your heirs to have to pay. So let's make sure you have a trust and you have all the correct documents here. Your assets are going where they want, where you want them to go, and they're actually titled correctly as well. So estate planning is very important. Then we have over here what we call the family office. Family office, or we also call this the vault, because this will put where all of your important documents are going to go. We do a once a year balance sheet over here for you that puts all of your assets, whether we manage them or not, it puts them all on one asset sheet so you can see where everything is. Great for you, your estate planning, your heirs to see where your assets are, for you, frankly, to see where your assets are. Because I can't tell you how many times people come to me and they go, well, I have a property over here and a property over there, and I think I have a. So let's make sure everything's on one place. We also do a notebook for folks, and that is from January to December. We give you a notebook and we take your, let's say you bank at Bank of America, or you bank at Credit Union. We put the January statement in there. When February comes in, you put February on top of that. If you have accounts with us, for instance, you put your January in there, you put your February on top. At the end of the year, you put your 1099 and your K1s in there. You take that notebook and you give it to your CPA. Boy, it saved a lot of hassle and time for everyone. They absolutely love us for that. So the notebook is very important and good for you to get going for yourself. We'll do that for you once a year. So in the beginning process of doing all of this for you, we collect your statements so we know what to put in the notebook for you. So again, putting all your important documents in this vault is important. I have a lot of clients that travel, and if I just had a client, they were in Spain and they got pickpocketed, unfortunately. Well, guess what? Their passport was what got pickpocketed. So they could call us and we sent them a copy of their passport. So it saved a lot of time and hassle for them for that. Then, of course, your investment dollars over here. Of course, we do that. I will be talking about that a lot here tonight. So it doesn't matter if you have 3 million or 30 million in assets. If you're not taking care of all of these things here, it doesn't really matter what kind of rate of return I can get for you if you're going to be sued and lose it all. If your heirs aren't going to inherit things correctly, if you don't have the proper statements and balance sheets that are necessary for you. So again, this is our private client process. We do charge a fee for this. We charge a fee to do all of this, as you can imagine. This takes a lot of time and effort. We have our normal management fees here. And then the third way we get paid, which doesn't cost you anything, is if you know somebody that this could really help, then kindly give us a nice referral. That's a way we get paid as well. So I wanted to explain this to everyone because it's harder for me to go over this on the radio show because obviously this is a lot of detail. But these are the 4 pillars of your financial house, and these we like to help work with all of these. Okay, so that's my private client process. So let me move on to income streams for you. I'll go back to share my screen. Oh, by the way, if you have questions, then by all means type them in here. I will try and get to them by the end of our program here tonight. If I don't answer your question, it's because I might have felt like I answered it during the seminar or we ran out of time. So, and I'll get back to you certainly later with your question. Okay, let's talk about control and flexibility within your portfolio to create that income you might be looking for, or protection of your assets that you might be looking for in your overall financial house. So the control and flexibility, very important for that. Which is why when I talk about retirement accounts, a lot of times I suggest people transfer them to us or a financial firm that can really manage these for you and diversify for you, like I mentioned in my master proprietary process earlier with M as the market, A as alternatives, and S is safe money. So how do we create income for folks? Well, we look at retirement accounts, certainly 401ks, pensions, 403bs, 457 IRAs, trust accounts. All these different kinds of accounts is what we use to then create that income for you to replace that paycheck. Because if you're not working anymore, you need to replace that paycheck somehow. We've got to create that income from somewhere. So these are the types of accounts we use. And where we go, and I'll do a deep dive into this in a minute, we go to bonds, perhaps. Those are income-oriented types of investments, typically. Stocks we can look at to create income. Annuities, that's the safe section. We can create income off of that. That can be guaranteed for your life, which is nice. I certainly can't say that about stocks or bonds. And then, of course, we need to know your budget. Very important. I talk about this on my radio show all the time. You've got to know what your budget is. Even my high net worth clients. I just went with a client the other day, and he said he spends about $50,000 a month. okay, well, he's just about to leave his job. And I said, well, we got to recreate this 50,000 for you. Another client I met with said, well, I don't know what my budget is. Well, you've got to know what your budget is, because I've got to know how to create the income for you. I've got to know how to recreate the income for you based on the assets you have to the dollars you tell me you need, right? And maybe you're going to travel more when you retire. Maybe you're going to start a new business. Maybe you're going to donate your time at the Cancer Society. So the budget is going to be important as far as how I manage your assets to that number. And then I'll conclude here tonight with the investment strategies. And I've gone over this a little bit already, but I think this is a whole package here that we're going to talk about. So control and flexibility. You want to have control and flexibility within your plan. Now, how do we do that? Well, we look at these different kinds of retirement accounts typically. I'll start there. Trust accounts can work as well. But if you retire or you change your job, you might have to wait until a specific retirement age to start taking distributions from that account to avoid penalties and taxes and things like that. This is from the companies themselves. That you might be able to set up a payment schedule through the companies as well. Another way to take advantage of if you're still working for a 401k and you want to have more control and flexibility in those accounts, those 401ks, the IRAs and things, you can do what's called open a brokerage window, or you can do a rollover from those accounts too. So if you open a brokerage window, that allows someone like me to come in and give you professional wealth management, give you advice on those different accounts and the different choices that you have. If you can roll it over, then you now have much more control and flexibility. Now we can do the master proprietary process for you. So if you have a 401k, for instance, and it's at the company plan, they generally give you 10 or 15 different choices of mutual funds to choose from. Well, there's a lot more mutual funds out there than that. There's about 8,000 mutual funds on the planet. So usually those are not the very best ones. Plus, those are all in the stock market. So when you're all in the stock market like that, you got a lot of risk. You really do. I'll talk about more about that in a minute. But you can leave when you retire. You can leave your money at the 401k plan that you're at. Now, I typically tell people not to do that. Well, what are the advantages? Well, the advantages are if you retire before 59 and a half, you might be able to take penalty-free distributions. Normally, people wait until after 59 and a half, because if you typically take money out of a retirement account before you're 59 and a half, you do have to pay a 10% penalty on the funds you withdraw, as well as ordinary income on what you take out. So again, that's an advantage if you're going to retire early or before 59 and a half. Usually that's for medical reasons or something like that. The disadvantage of course, leaving the money at the 401k account, for instance, is because you have limited options. Like I said earlier, there's usually 10 or 15 different mutual funds to choose from. There's way more than that. You may not be, if you leave the money there and you're retired, you may not be fully informed of any changes that are happening in the 401k itself. And of course, you can't make additional contributions because you're not working for the company anymore. What I typically tell people is to transfer the money out. Now, if you leave a job and you go to a new job and they have a 401k, you can take those funds from the old 401k and put it into the new 401k. Well, what are the advantages of that? Well, you can keep contributing to the 401k, which is great. However, there's huge disadvantages there again, because you have limited options. Most all 401k companies I've ever seen, they do have those 10 or 15 different options. There's so many more investment opportunities for you than that. So I would tell you, if you leave a company, roll it into a 401k, I'm sorry, take the 401k and roll it into an IRA. And now you have control and flexibility over those accounts. You can create income. You can diversify much more. You can actually have a plan for these funds. So the advantage, of course, is you have almost unlimited investment opportunities for yourselves, because I can create the master proprietary process for you. Again, M is the market, A is alternatives, and S is safe money. I can't do that if you leave the funds at the 401k accounts. You can contribute to IRAs, certainly if you're eligible, if you're working, if you do have some kind of part-time job after you retire, or you just have a job maybe that doesn't have a 401k, you can put money into these IRAs. Obviously, you can do insured investments. The professional wealth management that I bring to the table for you is a huge advantage for you to get that control and flexibility in your account. Now, the disadvantages of rolling your money into an IRA, well, if you take money out and you're under 59 and a half, you could have that 10% penalty you have to pay. And then, of course, you do have to pay the taxes on what you take out of there. That's true with any retirement account, really. And the cost could be higher. The cost could be lower, too. It depends on what we do. We have a wide array of things, and a lot of times, the investments we do, the companies pay me directly, so there's not a commission on top of what we might do. But of course, we would go over all of that with you before we did anything. Okay, let's talk about life insurance and long-term care, because a lot of people are unaware that they actually can take income off of a life insurance policy. And it might be a good idea to do that, especially if you have a life insurance policy that you've had for a number of years. Perhaps you've paid into it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And it has cash value to it, but it doesn't perhaps have long-term care. And a lot of times people come to me and they're very concerned about long-term care. They don't want to be a burden to their family. So we can take old policies and we do what's called a 1035 exchange. There's no taxes for you to do this. Take it from an old policy, put it into a new policy that now has long-term care attached to it and can create income for you if we set it up that way. And we can have income guaranteed for a single life or you and your spouse, for instance. So there's a lot of benefits we have there. So again, if you have those old life insurance policies and either it doesn't have long-term care or it doesn't have income attached to it, we can actually do that for you very likely. So call us and let us know if that's a concern for you. Okay, investment basics. Again, this is how we create income for folks. Now let's take a deep dive into bonds here for a minute. I started my business many years ago, and I did a lot of tax-free bonds in the day. I did a lot of municipal bonds. I had 9%, 20-year state and federal tax-free bonds. It was fabulous. My clients loved it. Of course, interest rates have come down over the last 30 years, which has made bond values go up, which I'll talk about here in a minute. Which has been great. But as interest rates rise, bond values go down. So I'm not really putting a lot of people into bonds. We have seen interest rates go a little bit higher over the last couple of years as far as bond investments go. But I'm very cognizant of interest rate changes and how it might affect your principal. So let's talk about that. So if you have $1,000 bond, for instance, and it's paying 6%, then you wait till the maturity, and let's say it's 10 years, just to give you an example. So you have a 10-year 6% bond. So if you wait 10 years, you'll get your $1,000 back and you will have earned 6% for the whole 10 years. Okay, but what happens within that 10 years? Okay, let's say interest rates rise. So you're getting 6%, and now everybody else is getting 7.5% on new bonds. Well, your $1,000 isn't going to be worth $1,000 anymore. It's going to be more like $800 because everybody else is getting 7.5%. You're only getting 6%. That makes the value of your bond less. Now let's go to the other side. So let's say interest rates go down. So you have a 6% bond, and now interest rates went down, and now everybody for new bonds can only get 5%. Well, your $1,000 bond is now going to be worth $1,200, for instance, because now interest rates went down, bond values went up. Okay, so I'm very careful about doing bonds, and particularly when you have bond funds, and I see those a lot in the 401ks and the IRAs and even the trust accounts that people bring to me. They have bond funds. Well, bond funds are going to be doing these bottom two tiers up and down with interest rates, trading, because they're trying to keep up with interest rates. Well, that's not a great strategy, in my opinion. I'd rather have you buy an individual bond and actually going to mature at a certain date than have a bond fund that's going to keep going up and down in value and be very subject to interest rate changes. So this is a way we can create income for you, but let's be very careful with it. Okay, let's talk about how we create income off of stocks. So stock accounts, I see these a lot too. When people bring me their large 401ks, they have 2 million, 5 million in their 401ks or even their trust accounts, there's a lot of growth stocks in there. And those are paying dividends, right? Growth stocks are meant to go up in value, go from $10 a share to $20 a share is what you're hoping for, right? That's growth. That's not an income stream, but there are stocks that do create income. And the income stocks are nice because that dividend comes in generally once a month. Now, be aware of this, that the dividends can be lowered or they can go away altogether. So I'm careful about the income stocks that we pick for you as well. So yes, we can create income off of those. Again, this is the stock market. Just like my bonds, it's going to fluctuate in value while you own it. A lot of times people don't like to see that when they retire. So yes, I do some here because the bonds and the stocks are liquid. So if you ever say, hey, Kelly, I need $200,000 tomorrow, I have an emergency, this is where I would go to get it. So I don't mind some money in the stock and bond section of things, but not all of it, because we want to diversify, right? We want to create that mass proprietary process for you. This is the M part. This is the market part, the bonds and the stocks I just talked about here. Okay, so yes, we create income off of this. Depending on what kind of income you need, we can create the income off of the stock and the bond portfolios. And again, I look at your risk, I look at your time frame, I look at your risk, I look at your budget. What do you need out of these accounts? And I tailor make this for you. Let me talk about annuities here as well, because annuities are the safe section of the investment plan here, or my master proprietary process. M is the market, A is alternatives, S is safe money. So when I look at the safe section, I look at annuities typically. Life insurance too can go down there, any kind of an insured type of product backed by insurance companies. So there's three kinds of annuities, and I am going to do a webinar coming up here in the next couple of months. Check back with my website, CaliforniaWealthAdvisors.com, and see when I'm going to have an annuity specific webinar. So I'd love to have you do that, but I'll go over it briefly here with you. There's three kinds of annuities. There's a fixed annuity, a fixed indexed annuity, and a variable annuity. Most of the time when people bring me their 401ks, they're in a variable annuity. That's this red line here. It's going to go up and down with the markets. I don't really ever know what you're going to get out of them. Now, if you're in a variable annuity, just like the stock market, because again, they buy mutual funds, over long periods of time, historically, they've done fine. But you've got to weather the ups and downs, right? And a lot of people, especially when they get closer to retirement, just don't want to weather those ups and downs anymore. They can't afford to. They don't have another 10 or 20 years ahead of them to get through whatever downturn we might be in right now. So the variable annuities, I don't do all that often unless someone that's younger or they're willing to take more risk. So that's the red line, the variable. The fixed index and the fixed annuity is more like the blue line there on my screen. That's kind of like the 6% bond I mentioned earlier. You put in $1,000, you're guaranteed 6%. It's going to mature at a certain date. That's it. That's the safest thing I can do for you, again, backed by insurance companies as far as a fixed goes. Now, I can't get 6% on a fixed annuity, so I'm not doing a lot of those now. The interest rates are lower on those, so I'd rather go to other income sources to try and create income for you than a fixed annuity. Now, what I do a lot of is the fixed indexed annuities, and that's the green line here. So as you can tell, this never goes down. It is backed by insurance companies. So you either are a 0% rate of return if the market doesn't go up at all, because you participate in the upside of the markets, not the downsides. So either it's a flat return or a positive return. And so my average returns there, I wrote there, is anywhere from 0 to on average, let's say 9% if I look over the last 30 years or so. We want to make sure that we're doing the right annuity for you. If you are looking for an insured product that has guaranteed income for your life, this is where I would go to do it. I can't say that about stocks, bonds, real estate, anything other than an insured type of product. So again, we can generate income off of these annuities, even the life insurance policies, the insured area of my master proprietary process. And a lot of people like that. They want to have some of their portfolio that they know they're going to get a fixed rate of return for the rest of their life and guaranteed for their life, because I can't say that again about a lot of things. Okay, let's move on to your budget. Now, again, I always ask people when they come and sit with me for the first time, particularly even my current clients, what is your budget? I need to know what your budget is. So let's just take this example here. Your goal is $10,000 a month. And let's say you have a pension of $1,000 a month and you get Social Security of $4,000 a month. Well, that's $5,000 a month. Well, your goal is $10,000. So that means I've got to create $5,000 from something. So if I'm trying to create $5,000 a month from you, I've got to get it from somewhere. I've got to go to your assets. What assets do you have that I can create income off of? Well, we're going to look at your 401k. We're going to look at an IRA. Perhaps you're going to work part-time. Maybe you want to. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you want to. Part or full-time. Maybe you're going to start a new business. Rental properties. A lot of times we look at rental properties. And again, if we do 1031 exchanges like I talked about earlier, a lot of time I can increase the income that you're actually putting in your pocket. So these are all the places. Trust accounts certainly are there. Investment accounts are certainly there. So these are the places I look at to create income for you. So whatever dollar amount is your goal in your budget each month, I'm going to look at the assets that you have, how these are invested. Can we improve the income that you're getting? I just met with a client the other day, and he was getting about 3% on his portfolio. And I said, well, I have some more conservative investments we can do, but I can get you 6 or even 8% off of that. And he really liked that. So yes, I can increase the income that you're getting if you've got money in a bank or a trust account, or even in stocks that aren't paying dividends. I can adjust those for you. Okay, so we got to fill in your gaps somewhere, whatever dollar amount that is. Now, your goal might be $50,000 a month, it might be $5,000 a month, but we're going to look at your portfolio and really do a deep dive in how we can create that income goal that you're looking for. So I'd like all of you guys to think about where you are in the spectrum here. Do you have all your money in the stocks? And again, that's red for a reason. And just kind of think about where you might be, because yes, you might have growth in the stock market or mutual funds or even variable annuities because they buy mutual funds, but you've got more risk to them. So a lot of times my clients come to me and they want to be more on this right side here. They want to be more in the fixed index annuity side, the safer side, maybe even some of the real estate programs that we have. Because they don't want to be all in the red. They don't want to be all in the stocks or mutual funds or even bond portfolios that are over there too. So just think about where you are and what you might be comfortable with, because we manage accounts to you and your risk tolerance. Because what we find is most people, when they get closer to retirement, they have less tolerance for being in the red. They really want to be more secure than that. So again, where are you in this portfolio of investments here? Okay, I did create a number of tools that will be helpful for you. Again, if you don't have a budget, I created the budget sheet. All 3 of these are on my website, californiawealthadvisors.com. Under the services tab, we have that. So your budget sheet, I think it's really important to do that pre-retirement, but also do one for when you think you're going to retire and how much you're going to be spending in retirement. I think that's really important for you to know. Knowledge is power, right? So do that budget sheet. Then we have an asset sheet. If you don't know where all your assets are, we do that private client process, those 4 pillars I talked about earlier. But the asset sheet is a really great place to start putting all your assets in one page so you kind of know where you're at. And then the bucket list is really important too, especially if you're pre-retirement or even in retirement. I want you to think about what you want to do in retirement. I don't want you to get to retirement and come back to me 6 months later and say, well, I'm bored. I didn't think about what I was going to do when I wasn't going to my work every day. So I put a few fun ones on there. Run a marathon, open a new business, coach is really fun. Be a mentor for someone, but also put your own on there. Maybe you want to travel the world. Maybe you want to move to a new state. I don't know, different things people like doing in their bucket list here. But I want to help you achieve those things, right? And how we do it is through the whole process I just talked to you about here. So we take your assets, we look at what your budget is, what kind of income do you want to create, looking at your heirs, how do you want to inherit things, how are things titled, and we make sure everything, all 4 pillars are taken care of for you. We are a fiduciary. We always put your needs before anyone else's, absolutely. We also are A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. We're very proud of that. And then we do have complimentary services for our current clients, and we do those portfolio reviews. We possibly look at Roth conversions for you. We look at, of course, cash flow projections, because we want to make sure you're getting the income you need off of your accounts. And then budgeting, of course. And then we continually do seminars and client education events to help educate you on what's available to you and how we might be able to help you. here is, whoops, my screen doesn't want to go. Why doesn't my screen want to go? Oops, there we go. So upcoming events. So we have a number of upcoming events, and just check my website, californiawealthadvisors.com, under the events tab, and whatever future events we have are on there as well. Here's some of my upcoming invitations that we had printed. I'm sorry, these are past ones, but just to show you what they kind of look like. But these are all the types of accounts we work with. 401k, certainly doing in-service transfers or rollovers, or even opening a brokerage window. Certainly we'll work with trust accounts. 1031 exchanges, of course, we do those as well. I mentioned those. Opportunity zones are there, or tax write-off programs we have as well to save on taxes, because we want to disinherit the IRS, don't we? We, of course, work with annuities, looking at old life insurance policies, and then Social Security. Social Security and long-term care tend to be some of the higher topics of interest lately. And actually, we have programs now that if your Social Security is decreased or thrown out the window by, the government wants to just means test everybody, for instance, and do away with some Social Security payments to some folks. We have programs actually that will kick in and start paying you that if Social Security goes down by 3%. Social Security gets decreased by 3% or more, we have plans that actually will kick in and start paying you income from that, which is great. I did not have that even in, I think, a year ago. These are fairly new programs. So the Social Security and the long-term care are very important to many people. We do have some questions I see here, so let me answer those. Okay, what if I need $60,000 off of my $1 million investment portfolio and it's in the stock market and the market goes down? Okay, all right. Well, so let's take this scenario. You have $1 million. You need $60,000. You told me your budget was $60,000 a year. Okay, and I can generate 6% for you. Let's just take that as an example. So $60,000 a year. Okay, and let's say the market goes down. So your $1 million turns into $500,000. Well, that income may very well go down too, because if your stock value went down that much, perhaps some of those stocks that you have stopped paying their dividend or lowered their dividend. So now your $60,000 that you need is now only paying you maybe $40,000. Well, maybe that's not going to be enough for you to manage your budget. This is why I tell people to diversify their portfolios. Make sure you have a diversified portfolio. Let's see if I can go back to that chart, and make sure you're diversified, because if you're not diversified, you are subject to market swings like that. So if you have $1 million in the stock market here in the red section and the market goes down hugely, well, your value is certainly going to go down hugely, but also your income could be cut in half. I don't want to see that. That's why I do the real estate programs and even the safe money too for you, because those income streams tend to stay more consistent. Now, the blue section, the safe money, the annuity funds, or even life insurance, if you turn on the income streams from those, that's guaranteed by the insurance companies. So I've never seen one go down, to be honest with you, because it's an insured product. I can't say that about the stock market, certainly. So let's make sure that you actually have your investments in the right place. The income is coming in as you need it, based on your risk tolerance and your time frame. Certainly, we do all of that. Okay, here's another question I have. I've been in the stock market for years, but I need to create more income, and I really don't want to be in the market now that I'm retired. Help. Okay, let me read that again. I've been in the stock market for years, but I need to create more income, and I really don't want to be in the market now that I am retired. All right, so yes. Again, back to my chart here. You're 100% in the stock market. You don't want to be there because you're getting closer to retirement. I do not blame you, because if the market goes down hugely tomorrow and you're relying on those funds to create that income that you're looking for, well, I might not be able to create that income if you're all still right there and you don't have 10 or 20 years ahead of you anymore to weather whatever storm we might be in today. So again, this is why I create this mass proprietary process for you. This is why I create my pillars of investment planning here for my private clients. Looking at your investment portfolio, certainly, but also your risk that you have, your estate planning that you need, and your family offices or your vault. This is the primary thing that we're doing for the majority of our clients now, because they need a full financial plan. They really do. They need their whole financial house looked at. So again, this is what we do. Okay, any more questions? I'm running out of time here. By all means, we'll get back to you directly for those, and we appreciate you listening. So if you haven't met with me, I like that first meeting to be in person. That's my preferred. I want to get to know you. I want you to get to know me. I want to make sure I can bring to the table what you're looking for. I can do Zoom meetings as well and phone calls, but I like that personal touch. I'm very picky about the clients I work with. So I want to make sure we're on the same page. I can bring you what you're looking for, and really make it a satisfying relationship. That's my goal here. So give us a call. 805-941-0444 is our phone number. You can also email us, kelly@californiawealthadvisors.com, and call in and get yourself on our calendar and to have that first meeting. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Look for more seminars that we do. We love doing these, educating you as much as we possibly can. So stay tuned, check the website, or you can certainly call the office and we'll give you some more data on whatever future webinars and seminars and in person and Zoom that we have. Okay, great. Have a good night, everyone. Great to see you. Look forward to get together. Okay, take care.